Yo ho ho! My name is Travis Bean, and on this channel we talk Kanye West. I'm sitting here on a Thursday afternoon in my dissect hoodie, sipping a coffee. I'm trying to really put myself in the space of a guy, a white dude who listens to indie music, because that's where I need to be today. Um, I we usually cover like Kanye news in this channel, but we venture out. We do like some more fun things, some more analytical things, and I thought it would be nice to start doing some like lists, uh, just like random fun lists, like five things you want to see, five movies you want to watch of Kanye West, like stuff like that. So I'm going to be picking different lists to be doing week by week, day by day. And today, I thought I would look at the five indie bands that I think Kanye West should work with. And this is inspired by the fact that Kanye was in the studio of Beach House, who is a very big indie pop band. And is this filling up the whole screen? Okay, it is. And I love that Kanye does this. Like he's worked with Bon Iver. He's worked with like Daft Punk. I guess they're not really indie, but we've seen him like he wanted the work of James Blake, but that fell through. Like it's really cool that Kanye keeps bringing in these outside artists that are not typical to hip hop into the studio and just kind of gleaming any ideas he can get from them. And so I thought it'd be cool to look at, what are some potential dream collaborations we could see? Because I listen to a lot of music outside of hip hop. I love hip hop. I've listened to traditional hip hop, old school hip hop, and like new hip hop. I'm all over the place. When it comes to music, though, because I listen to indie, I listen to rock, I listen to metal, I listen to classical. I pretty much do it all. So indie is kind of the genre. I know it's kind of a wide term. There's indie pop, there's indie rock, and sometimes it bleeds in an alternative. And a lot of those indie acts become pretty big. So like, is it indie anymore? But we all generally know what indie means. It's something like Beach House, right? Something like Bon Iver. So and I've always been really attracted to indie music. It's I know it's not like the coolest genre to like, but it is the genre I got into early on. A lot of my favorite bands were that, and I would mention that, but we're probably gonna get into a few here because this is my dream list. So I'm just naming people that I like that I want to work with Kanye. But I've always just loved that whole arena. And so I think this would be a fun list. So I'm going to go through this top five, and please in the comments let me know like who you think good additions would be, and give me other ideas for lists I could do. I feel like this could be a fun thing for me because the news could be a little grueling sometimes, especially when Kanye releases a music video where he's murdering someone, which I can't wait to talk about in the show. But here, right now, we're just doing fun stuff. So who would we like to see? Well, my first one is Sufjan Stevens, which I don't know how many people listen to Sufjan Stevens. You can see here in my Rate Your Music account, I've listened to a lot of his stuff. I have always I loved Michigan early on, Seven Swans. I've even really enjoyed his newer stuff like Age of Odds and, of course, Carrie and Lowell, which everybody seems to love. But my number one album is Illinois. And Illinois, as some people call it. I'm from Illinois, and it was one of my early music purchases. If I'm not thinking of high school, I guess in high school I bought like CDs for Crazy Town and Uncle Cracker, like shit like that. But Sufjan Stevens was one of the first ones where I was like, oh, like this guy speaks to me, like I get this, and it was a more profound purchase. And I feel like their energies would blend really well together. I think when I was dreaming up this list, I was thinking more of where Kanye's at right now. I'll get this over a little bit. Than where he's been in the past. Like I'm thinking of, I guess I'm mostly thinking of like Ye, Kitsy Ghost, Jesus is King, Donda, like this new phase Kanye's in where he's becoming more and more minimalist and experimenting with poppier sounds. And kind of pulling back a lot of what he did on Yeezus. I feel like ever since Yeezus and Rick Rubin made him like strip out all these elements, he's kind of been on that kick slowly and gradually. So I feel like Sufjan Stevens would fit really well with that, who is, of course, an acoustic artist for many of his songs, but as you can see, ventures into like chamber pop and does some really, like if you've heard Carrie and Lowell, it's not, you can't really just call it like indie folk, right? It's not just acoustic. There are so many unique and dreamy sounds to that album. And I don't know if any of you remember, but this was back, God, what date was this? Well, this article was written in 2016, and Kanye was working on music. This would have been after The Life of Pablo, just after it released. He sent out this tweet of him listening to Death with Dignity, which is from the album Carrie and Lowell by Sufjan Stevens. And it was funny because people noticed that he had Pirate Bay up and that he was torrenting music. And deadmau 5 actually wrote this. He was like, dick. Which, it's funny that, like, even talking about merging indie and Kanye, like, those two forces seem so polar opposite. In the indie community, that's where we see a lot of people, like, speaking out against Kanye. Like, I feel like it's safer to do that in indie community because, like, why would Kanye ever work with anybody from that genre? But he does all the time. So I wouldn't expect him to work with deadmau 5 or deadmau5. I don't know how you say his name. But Sufjan, I think that would be awesome. I could see their energies meshing really well, especially with Kanye becoming more internal, more meditative. That's very much Carrie and Lowell. And I could see, I mean, that album is about Sufjan's mother and father. So Kanye's definitely on that kick, thinking about his own mother and like his own role as a father. So yeah, my next one is Julia Holter, who I don't know how popular she is actually. She's somebody I really love. Her album Loud City Song is like one of my favorite albums. And it's a lot of like, it's chamber poppy. It's very moody, atmospheric. I wish I could play music in the middle of this list, but we would get demonetized on YouTube. We'd get in trouble. So I can't do that, but you can go listen to it. She has this sound that kind of envelops you and surrounds you. It's really cool. It actually reminds me a lot of Kids See Ghosts. And I think Kanye's work, especially Donda, ever since, and I'm thinking of like new songs like True Love and Broken Road, like kind of have that moody sound that Kids See Ghosts has. And I was searching to see if like there had ever been any rumors about Julia Holter and Kanye working together. Of course not. That would be pretty crazy. But I found this random list, songs that are similar to Sea Calls Me Home, which is one of Julia Holter's biggest songs. Runaway is on the list, and Kids See Ghosts is on the list, which isn't surprising to me. So Christine and the Queens, that actually would be a good one. Devil in a New Dress, like those songs in particular, like kind of have a Julia Holter vibe. So I could see them coming together and like finding a sound, and I would of course be all about that. Next up is Vampire Weekend, which is a band I don't love, at least like the sound. I did really like Vampire Weekend, their debut album, and Contra when it came out. And I even think Modern Vampires of the City has some endearing elements, but it's not really my favorite kind of music. But I mostly admire a band like Vampire Weekend. Like they're a band that always changes their sound. It is very ambitious and always bringing in new people in the studio and trying out different things. The fact that they're like that makes me think like them and Kanye could be a good fit and they could find a cool sound together. Ezra Koenig, who's the lead singer of Vampire Weekend, actually went into Kanye's studio once, and he describes it like one day David Longstreth was there, who is the lead singer of Dirty Projectors, who is another indie band Kanye could probably work with and apparently has. The next day Big Sean shows up, and he was seeing this energy and was really connecting with it and seeing how it could influence their music making and songwriting process. He discussed how writing for Kanye West initially made him want to get 200 people working on the new Vampire Weekend album. Increasingly, that seems to be the way people work. It's not just pop. That pop way of working starts to encompass the whole music industry. So working with Kanye like really inspired him to kind of branch out and make it a more collaborative effort. And Vampire Weekend is a band that's really blown up in size, like more guys on stage. They're jamming more at their concerts. They're experimenting more with the songs, like in the middle of shows. So I could see all that energy coming together and making for a unique experience. The next one is Jamie XX. Could find no information online about Jamie XX working with Kanye West. Jamie XX is part of the band The XX, which is probably one of the most derided indie bands. Like that's one of those bands like when you mention people go ugh, like they hate the XX, which I've never really understood. I love them. I think they're great. I love the like homey sound they have. They have like I don't know if this is a very good way to describe the sound of music, but it has a very like domesticated sound. They sing about very intimate relationships and being at home and like meditation, looking within, like finding happiness in the situation you're in, which all that to me screams Kanye West. Very spare music, a lot of like drum kits. It's an interesting sound that isn't typical and actually is close to hip hop. And I believe, God, I should have looked a little better, but I believe Jamie XX has worked with a few hip hop musicians. I know that on this album, In Color, he has a Gil Scott-Heron song, I believe, or it was a single, I don't know, but he samples Gil Scott-Heron. So I know he's a fan of hip hop, and I just think that would be cool. Like you see like UK bass, like pop rap. You could see that all like coming together with Kanye and doing something unique, like maybe Remote Control-esque, which as many of the people who listen to the show know, I love Remote Control. So any person that's coming in and bringing that out of Kanye, like I'm into. And my last one is like my ultimate wish, which is Modest Mouse. My favorite band ever, if you don't include Kanye West. My favorite like set, I guess, a non-single artist. I love Modest Mouse to death. Lonesome Crowded West, The Moon in Antarctica, We Were Dead Before the Ship Even Sank. Like these are all some of my all-time favorite records. And believe it or not, Kanye loves Modest Mouse. What is this? So it's this interview with Clash. I'm not even sure what Clash is. But he was talking about bands he was listening to. This was back, it looks like it's College Dropout era, gosh. Yeah, 2007. And the guy asked like what bands he was listening to. And he said British music. And then he mentions Modest Mouse when he's listing bands he likes, like Keane and Kaiser Chiefs, which is bizarre. And Modest Mouse. But I know they're from America. And he says, cool. So Modest Mouse, their album, We Were Dead Before the Ship Even Sank, which big song from that would be like Dashboard or Fire It Up, which are probably the two songs. There's a lot better songs than that record, in my opinion. Those are like the more poppy songs they like tried to get on the radio after they hit it big with Float On. But their album was one of my favorite records. Sonically, it is the best album of the year. Okay, and then he talks about British people, but he thinks that album is sonically the best album of the year. And it actually is, while it's not my favorite Modest Mouse album, it is kind of the album where you feel them breaking open a little bit and finding a really unique sound. Like Modest Mouse has their own sound. But that was the moment where you saw them maybe go into the direction they always wanted to. Like they started experimenting more and more with pop music and finding this fusion between like radio and like grungy alternative rock. And they really found it on that record, and it has just such a unique sound. And I could see that maybe that would have been more for Kanye West in 2007 when he was working with a lot of different artists. Like, he's working with Coldplay and Daft Punk and stuff. So like maybe that would have made more sense then. But Modest Mouse's newest record, God, I'm blanking on the name of it actually. I love it. The Golden Casket. There are some really like more low key ambient songs on that. And a song where Isaac Brock, the lead singer, is talking about being a father for the first time. I feel like they're at similar moments in their lives. They're maybe even like around the same age. Isaac Brock's probably a little older, but I could see them kind of coming together and finding something. I don't know what it would be because like I guess Kanye doesn't use a ton of rock on his records. But we've seen it work before. I'm thinking of that XXX Tentacion song Kanye did. Or something just poppier. Again, I think of Remote Control. Like that's kind of the direction Modest Mouse went with back in like 2007. So I could see something happening. But again, that's just a dream of mine that happens. And that would be my top 5. I pulled up a few more that I think would work really well that I can just mention really quick and if anything, if nothing else, they're recommendations for you because I like all these bands. Magdalena Bay. I almost said Charlie XCX because I know she loves Kanye, and I think they would make a killer song, but she's not really indie, is she? Magdalena Bay is more indie, and they're going on tour with Charlie XCX, and they have a similar sound, so just hook up with them. Kanye. Broken Social Scene. I don't know what that would be or how that would come together. I don't think it ever would, but that'd be dope. Low, a really like super spare band, like very, very minimal and very sad music. So I'm sure Kanye could find his place in that. Islands, one of my favorite bands growing up. Their lead singer Nick Diamonds is like, to me, he's indie's Kanye West. Like, he's not as loud and brash as Kanye, but he kind of presents this like superstar figure. It's kind of like, it's kind of an act he does. It's more performance art. So I think that'd be cool. And they have a song where someone raps. They have a couple songs actually where people rap. And they have an auto-tune song that came out like right after 808s and Heartbreak. So that would be cool. Third Projectors, I already mentioned them. I could see that naturally working. And James Blake, which Kanye and James Blake, I was reading this article and Kanye said he wanted to work with James Blake, but they never actually came together. And this whole article is written about how the life of Pablo, 22 over soon. What was the name of that? Justin, the Bon Iver album, the last one. Sorry, I'm blanking on it. And The Color and Anything, like all these albums came out at the same time, and they were all kind of similar. Like they had similar energies and it had similar journeys and everything. And it was cool they all came out at once. And of course, Bon Iver's worked with Kanye, and Kanye's wanted to work with James Blake. So like you could see all these energies merging all at once. It was interesting. And yeah, that's it. That's my top 5 for today. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already and you like Kanye West. This is the channel for that. If you like Kanye West, that's all we do. And leave comments about other lists you want me to do. Bands you think I missed. I love talking about this kind of stuff. It's way more fun for me than reporting on Kanye news, which I enjoy doing, but this like flexes my brain muscles a little more, right? My creativity, and it's fun. Okay. Stay wavy, keep it loopy.